host, Tim T. Johnson with TTown Tents and TTown TShirts. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Just trying to get this thing kicked off, trying to learn today and have our special guest on in a few minutes. We'll see how many people come on in shortly. I know it's just started, so we'll give them a couple minutes to get on. But in the meantime, I did had a chance to write down a brief mission statement for my financial freedom. What I'm trying to accomplish. Hopefully, it's something I'll improve on. But this is just a draft, so I thought maybe I'll run it by you today. I haven't run it by anybody yet, so this is only off my head. But I wanted to start out with saying, hey, this is freedom, financial freedom. Our mission here every week is to improve ourselves and help one another to improve our whole community. Goal here is to work harder and smarter to achieve our goals better and faster. Our program, Financial Freedom, is here to help us all be financially responsible, independent, accountable, and secure. We will cover personal credit, business credit, savings, cash flow, buying a house, buying or investments, buying business, retirements, overall financial growth. That's pretty much what we're trying to do. I welcome everybody to join in and be active, discuss, learn, contribute, so as a community we can grow and become something beautiful. This program is targeted towards tenting and automotive industry, but can be used by anyone in almost everything we do. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started on our journey to learning and growth. What do you think?
Hey, that works. That works.
That's just something I was like, you know what? I had a few minutes to wind down, and I was like, hey, let me run this by and see what people think of this. So I don't see anybody coming in on the chats yet. I do see a couple views up. I don't know if that's just you and me or somebody else, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know it looked like he posted it. Our tax guy was coming on. He looks like he posted it on his page. So I'm not sure if you've seen him yet or not. But
I don't see him on my chat.
all
Does he have
right.
the link?
Yep, I gave him the link. I sent him a message. So we'll see. See what he does. Yeah, you should see him pop up on the bottom corner down there. Guess we can see if it's live on his page. So
All right. He's not in here as a guest. You want him to send another link, or you want me to send you a link?
he has it.
All right. I'm just gonna post it up here in the comments, so that way he can see that. Hopefully.
Yeah, he's got his. It's on his channel moving right now. So
All right,
he it's,
guys.
it's on his YouTube. So he should be clicking in.
That is a link for him to grab it and get online here with us, and hopefully we can see him shortly. But anyways, last week we talked about some spreadsheets. I'll go over that a little bit. Hopefully you guys had a chance to see that video, do your own little spreadsheet. I'm gonna improve on that credit card monitoring spreadsheet a little bit. There's a couple things I skip in a hurry. So we'll look into that. Next week, what we're gonna talk mostly is all about credit cards, building credit cards and all that stuff. So I see our special guest coming on. So let's welcome him in. Good evening, Oliver from California.
Yes.
How are you
Man,
doing
look at
Hey,
today?
that.
can I be heard? Am I being heard?
We can hear you loud and clear, sir. Welcome
Man,
to Financial Freedom. Thank you, Tim, for bringing our special guest on here. I did get a chance to see some of your content. It was beautiful, man. I got so many notes, so many questions of my own. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna give any of our audience a chance to ask any of their questions.
Oh wow, wow. Now I'm extremely nervous.
Nah, you'll be good. You
We'll
do
try
this,
to
you do this for a living. Yeah.
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah.
So
I can
Tyrone,
understand.
so if you want, then why don't you let us why don't you give us a little intro about you and give us what you want. You know, you're good at it. I know you do it often on YouTube. So
Please.
tell us a little bit about yourself. And I love the shirt, even though I have LLCs. But we talked about
Well,
we talked
well,
about
I say
this.
we've had the discussion. We've had the discussion. Absolutely, man.
That's right.
Well, for me, my name is Tyrone Gregory. Effectively known to my community as their favorite uncle cousin. That's a whole another story behind that one. I have been in the tax game for a little over 14 years now. Wasn't something I woke up, right? Like I didn't wake up and decide like, hey, this is the career I wanted to be in. I didn't wake up and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go to school for accounting and all that good stuff. I got into this industry by force of hand, I guess. The IRS forced me to be in this industry. One day, because I love working with my hands, right? Like I'm like Tim, I love working with my hands, doing things. So I had a construction company I started in California. Well, let me back up. I started a construction company. California was like, it's not a construction company because you don't have a license, right? So I just was working on people's houses, doing things, made a lot of money, and thought that I was doing the right thing. I had read the IRS publications. I had, thought I was doing all the right things. And then when it came time to file taxes, we hired a tax professional, and it just went south. We got audited. They decided to go back not just that year, they wanted to go back 3 additional years, and it just turned out to be a nightmare for my wife and I, and it ended up costing me a lot of money. So at that point, I told my wife, I'm a DIY kind of person. I said, you know what? I'll go learn how to do this myself before we hire another professional, right? Because that was ridiculous that we had to go through all that. And it like I said, it was stressful, more stressful than we wanted it to be, more stressful than it needed to be. And literally when I went through and took the course and I learned, it was an eye opener for me, right? Because the taxes is not something that we learn in school. It's not depending on the community you come from, is not something that's talked at dinner time. It's not the conversation in the family, So when I took the income tax course and it really opened my eyes and mind to everything that happens to us financially, and it completely changed my trajectory, right? Like I did my first year with the big box retailer, because at the time I took the course, I still had my business, right? Like I was still working for my business, and it was there. And I was like, I'm just learning for my personal self. But then they convinced me to actually work a tax season part-time. And from there, man, it was over. Because every person I talked to, and I asked them, I said, as a business owner, did you know this? Do you know X, Y, and Z? Do you know how this works? And they was like, no, nobody ever told me. And it just blew my mind. Right. And that's where it started me on this journey, to be honest with you, because that's honestly how it led to YouTube and Tim and here now, right? Just that right there.
That's great. Great story. Hey,
That's
good way to-
awesome, man. I love that. Like I said, Tim introduced me to you. He talked about you, and I didn't even hesitate. I'm like, let's get this guy on. Let's see what he's got. And I've been watching your videos, man. You hit so many things on the head for me, man. Seriously, I was like, dude, I didn't even see that stuff before. I saw that afterwards. But like I said, I've got tons of questions. We're gonna let the audience have their chance first. If the audience, kind of slowed up, I'll keep us moving. Hopefully,
Okay.
Tim's probably got a whole bunch of questions, but Tim told me he spent hours with you already. So,
Oh yeah. Tim is the
he's
man.
covered. Tim is the man.
Look at all my t-shirts. All the t-shirt people are coming. I shared it. See all the t-shirt people. Hey, I
Welcome,
support
guys.
everybody.
Welcome. Everybody,
I shared
welcome.
it on my Instagram, but I think I shared the wrong link. Then I realized when I clicked that link and signed in, I was able to share it to Facebook and YouTube. So I think I did that.
Nope, you did see that. Absolutely, for sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I seen
Definitely.
it. Yeah, that's great.
Because it is getting ready for tax time. So, we definitely want to make sure we get everybody prepared as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I dread it because I do books really bad.
Chris said confusing link. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still new to this. This is my third live today, so I'm still learning Restream. I was trying to get OBS to connect with us so we can have a better experience, but I didn't quite get that. So I'll apologize about that to some of the people trying to get in here, and I tried to fix that. I didn't realize my main page was set to private. So a lot of people that got the link couldn't get on because they weren't invited, even though they got the link. So I think that's what Tim was also running into in the beginning.
Yeah. So Chris, if you just type in the comments for your questions there, and we'll do that. But I do see t-shirt chick and Jesse. Jesse's on everybody's lives too. He's like me. He's everywhere. So for sure, they're everywhere on there. I sit in this room and I'm embroidering or making shirts. I mean, I do listen to music every once in a while, or I'll have both of them. I'll have music on. I'll have them in my ears. Friday nights when Tyrone's on there, we're sitting on my couch watching live PD or something.
Oh, you watch it from the couch? All right.
Oh yeah,
that's a good
iPad
thing.
right next to it. Yep.
Okay.
Headphone in.
That's what we do.
All right, Cash. Go ahead. Go off of your first question there. What do you got?
Well, let's go with the first question. This is a long one, and you kind of covered this on I think a couple of Fridays ago on your thing. But I'm gonna put this down here. I spend about $400 personal money a month on fuel at the shop. Can I claim my own taxes? Don't have a company or fuel card using personal debit. So this is one of our tenter that put this question up maybe about a week ago, asking that he spends about $350 to $400 of his own money a month on fuel, and he wants to know if he can get that put into his taxes as expense.
Great question. The only question I would want to know, right, is fuel at the shop. Is it like going into a machine that's specifically used at the shop, or is it going like to a personal vehicle that's bringing him back and forth to the shop? Because that definitely would make a difference. And I guess I'll answer both, to be honest with you. Let me just do that, because not sure if the individual is here to clarify. So if it's $400 a month on a piece of equipment like a generator or something that's at the shop and is used for the production of business, then because in that instance, that fuel cost would be 100% deductible, whether it's paid with personal debit card, whether it's paid with personal credit card, or anything like that. One thing I do want to point out with that question is the fact that you do not need to have a specific kind of business structure set up to be able to write things off, right? Like that's really the whole thing behind the LLC. A lot of people think that they need a specific kind of business structure. They need to be an LLC. They need to be an S corp or have a business account to be able to take advantage of the tax code. And that's not absolutely true. That is incorrect. You can do it as a sole proprietor. So to get to the point again, if that $400 use is for something that is specifically in the shop, for example, a generator or some sort of other machine that uses gasoline for the production of the work, then absolutely 100% deductible in that scenario. In the second scenario, if it's for the personal use vehicle that's getting them back and forth to work, then that's where we have to do some additional tracking, right? Because in order for us to use the vehicle deductions, personal vehicle deductions, the IRS wants to know how much of that vehicle use was personal versus how much was business. Okay. And the only way to determine the difference between business use and personal use is to track the miles. So I'm encouraging everybody, right? And I think I did this when we was on our live Friday. Like,
You did.
break out your phone, put it in your calendar app, whatever you have to do. Come January 1st, make sure that you write down your odometer reading on January 1st, because you want to know the total miles used for the year. So you want to know starting January 1st to December 31st, that was the total miles. And to get the business use percentage, we divide the total miles by the business miles. Okay, so for the example, for the $400 per month, if that person, say, just for purposes of round numbers, if they drove 10,000 miles for the year, right, total, and of those 10,000 miles, 5,000 was for business. Now it's easy to say that we have a 50% business use. And because it's 50% business use, we can write off 50% of that $400 a month.
Even if it's not his business, he works for, it's his dad's business. He works for his dad, so he's an employee of his dad's company.
So, Tyrone, I
would
got
assume
a
that's what it is.
question on that aspect. So, from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they want you to have a log of your miles if you ever get audited, correctly, or is it
That is
just total
correct. Yeah.
miles? Because when I used to have my fleet and I ran my wholesale, we literally had a log on, hey, you left this place, you went to go deliver here, or you went to this job site, so on and so on. And we kept those logs. And this was my question on this was um, that how long do you keep your records overall? This is a
Good
combination
question.
of a question. How long? So I don't want to forget that question. That is a question I have for is how long do we keep that on there? I'm sorry, I'm getting some comments here. Some people are saying that they're not able to get on Facebook and comment. Guys, I'm sorry if you're having trouble with the original link. What you need to do is go to the top 10th service page and come in through there. You should be able to do your comments with Facebook through there. Otherwise, you can go to YouTube to Top 10 Service page, and you should be able to come on through there as well. If you're on Twitch, you can do that. Ryan, I see your comment now. Thank you, sir, for letting me know that. But going back to our question.
Yes. Hey, Cash, restream. You may have to, if nobody's ever done it before, restream. You have to get permission to Facebook to be able to see your comment too. That could be some of it too.
I did do that. So there are some guys that are coming through. So what happened was I put it on my personal page, but I also put it on my business page. And the personal page was for whatever reason set to private. The business page was to the public. So the guys that's coming through the business page, they're coming in okay with their comments. The guys that's going through the other side is not. But Tyrone, did we get that point down that if you want to do your expenses, fuels, you need to have a log down, preferably a log that has a detail of what you used it when. So if you ever get audited, that you don't have any questions on that, because otherwise they can always question your mileages, right?
That is true, right? So what you're speaking on is definitely key when it comes to record keeping, right? You always want to have substantiation. One of the big things with us as tax professionals, with the IRS asks us when deducting miles, is it asks us specifically, did the client keep record? And if they did, was it written? And we have to answer those questions. If we say no to either of those questions, then it automatically disallows us to enter in any kind of vehicle deduction. So you definitely want to keep track. I always say, start with free. Pen and paper works. If you keep a notepad in your car, or like a note app on your phone, right? We got technology, make use of it. All you simply want to do is, because they only want to know 4 things: the date, the time, the location. That's it. I say 4 things because after the location, you might want to jot down how many miles it was, just to kind of make it easier to track. But the IRS simply want to know the date, time, location. And like I said, you can put that, you can, go on Microsoft Word, Excel, you can print out your own log sheet, just print those on there, put date, time, location. You can put distance if you want to, give it a business purpose, but you definitely want to keep track in case of an audit.
Hey, that's like back in the old days when they didn't have the digital readout where it said how many miles per gallon you got. You used to have, my mom and dad wrote it down, put it in the glove box.
There it is. Exactly. And I say, I always start with free because I want us, my goal as a tax professional, as somebody who's out here, talking to the community, is save your money. If you can't afford the app, because I think they got the Mile IQ, they got apps nowadays where they can track your miles automatically. I think it's like $60 or something like that for the year. But if that's something that's not within the budget, hey, pen and paper is free and it works.
Absolutely. Cash, we can't hear you, but there's a question down there. Oh, there you go. Well, I said there's a question.
So you can always use spreadsheets as well. Especially with Google Sheets, you can use that as well as a free tool. So everybody that has Google can use that. If you don't have Google, Google is free to sign up with your email, and then they'll give you those Google Sheets that you can use as a spreadsheet to track that stuff down, as well as other tools that Google gives you for free. So we covered that but last week on doing for our expenses, but you can also do that for your logs.
Yeah, great episode last week too.
We got a question right here from Alex. If you want to hit that real quick.
So how do I go about writing off tools for work?
It's
work
a wrap
at a wrap shop. Okay, I do buy a lot of tools. So let me state this. So are we talking about, because again, with taxes, it's always if this, then that. If you are an employee of a shop, it's different write it off than being an independent contractor at a shop or the owner of a shop, right? Because as an employee, unfortunately, for federal tax purposes, the option to be able to deduct unreimbursed employee expenses have been suspended at least until tax year 2025. So for right now, on the federal side, there's nothing we can do with that. And I specifically say on the federal side, because there are still certain states that says, well, even though the feds might not allow you to write it off, we will. So it still may be able to keep track of that. So from a person who is an independent contractor and they're buying tools, then it's simply just, again, well, let me not say simply because you have options. You can, depending on the cost of the tool, you can write it off. Just simply write down, hey, this is the tool I bought. This is how much it costs. That's my business expense. Simple as that. Or if you want to say, if it costs a lot, like say if it costs, let's say $1,000 or more, just throwing out a random number, you can depreciate it and spread that cost over 7 years. So those are the two options. But as far as how do you go about writing it off, it's simply just keeping track of how much you spent for it. And then choosing to say, do I want to write it off the whole thing right now, or do I want to depreciate it and spread that cost over time? And again, depreciation is one of those things where, you really want to sit down with a tax professional, because now we're projecting. This is like when I learned about taxes, it kind of blew my mind, because you can write everything off in the first year, but then if you plan on making more money in the next coming years, you may want to save some of those expenses so you'll have something to write off in the future, as opposed to writing everything off in the first year.
So Ryan has a little, I guess, a tip for how to do your mileages off of his phone and his calendar. So I just put that up there for you.
Hey, that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, because again, the whole thing is you just want to be able to, one, know. That's like the biggest thing, right? Like you don't ever want to just look up at the ceiling and guess and look at the ceiling tiles. You actually want to know, because I've seen people guess at numbers, and I'd be like, no, we need, like for my Uber and Lyft drivers, right? Like they'll be like, well, I drove an estimated amount of this miles, and I'm like, okay, no, we don't want to guess. We can't guess. Let's go to Uber, because Uber does track the miles, and then we look at the actual Uber summary, and they gave them way more miles than they were guessing. And I'm like, dude, you literally, like, if we were to go with your number, that was $5,000 that you just missed out on because of not knowing.
Yes,
And so
sir.
that's what you don't want to do. So the goal is just to know, to make sure you're getting everything, every single penny that you are legally entitled to.
I
So
appreciate that.
the calendar and the iPhone is beautiful. I mean, hey, that works, whatever works, as long as you can sit up here and accurately say, this is how many miles I drove, it's good to go. IRS don't care what type of system you use. They just want to know, did you track?
Right. Ryan, thank you for that tip. Guys, if you got questions, please put in your comments. If you want to come on board and ask them in person, I will shoot a link right here every few minutes or so. You guys are more than welcome to come on the screen, man. We can have multiple people. We don't mind. More the merrier.
Shady, Mr. Stay Shady there. What and why that been suspended? What was you talking about, Shady? Anybody get that one?
I didn't get it either. I was gonna address that next. So yes, you got on top of it. Yes, sir. What are you talking about, Shady?
I do believe Shandy is referring to, because I said the unreimbursed employee expenses have been suspended. So I'm assuming that's what they're referring to. And why they suspended that, I don't know. That happened during the Trump administration. He did do a lot of things positive for taxes. I don't know why that he did suspended the unreimbursed employee expenses. Not quite sure. My guess is because it was a lot of fraud around with that. People was just making up stuff, and taxes was going rampant with that. But we don't know for sure. But again, that's only on the federal side. The federal may not accept it, but the states still do. So it's still a benefit to track it, because it may be a benefit on your state side as opposed to the federal.
Yeah.
I want to address Jaybird, financial freedom, give to the Lord first, and everything else will be provided, or a charity. Financial freedom stands for giving to our community, helping out our own guys. This is not profitable. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm investing my own money to host this thing. Our special guest is not getting paid anything to come on here, put his time out. We want to continue to thank you for doing this. This is a big thing, especially for a new show like myself here. And like I said before, I'm not a good at this. I don't know how to do this. I'm just trying to help out people, and I want to just collaborate with whoever wants to help out and just grow our learning, man. You're never too old to learn and grow yourself. And if you can work harder or smarter, if you can put both that together, work harder and smarter, we'll get to our goals a lot faster. And yes, never forget God. Doesn't matter what your background is, what your religion is. We always got to thank the guy up above, because without him, we ain't nothing.
Amen. Amen. And
So,
speaking of, I mean, you can, it's given to God, not to just downplay it, but if it makes sense, your charitable donations are also tax deductible. So consider that as well. Every little bit helps.
So
I have a question on that. Oh, go ahead.
I'm about to say, how do you do that if you don't get a receipt?
Hey,
cash donations.
I'm just saying, I don't go to church or nothing, but I know about it. I went to church many times with my grandparents, but how do you track it?
Well, so there's multiple ways, right? Because most people write checks, right? So you can have a canceled check as proof, as donation to a church. A lot of church, depending on the type of organization. Let's first start with the fact that in order for it to be deductible, it has to be an IRS recognized 501c entity, right? Like giving somebody money on the corner that don't, even though it's charitable, right? Like God is paying attention to your heart. He appreciate that. You can't deduct the amount that you gave to the man sitting on the corner, right? Like it has to be an IRS approved 501c. And normally when you donate money to those individuals, they have their own tracking system. And even if you don't keep a receipt, they'll send you a summary at the end of the year saying, hey, here's what you donated, put that on your taxes. So that's one way of doing it. And if I'm being honest, between, us and everybody that's listening here, including the government, as long as it's not ridiculous, in my 14 years of being in this tax industry, I haven't seen anyone audited for charitable giving. So just don't try to donate all your money, right? Like you got paid 100,000, you donated 100,000, so you're not paying taxes, kind of thing. As long as we ain't doing that, you should be all right.
So on the follow up on that, so every year I do a wrestling tournament, and the deal that we have is they have champions for all their weight classes. I provide the T-shirt and the design for all the champions. That's my donation to them. Everything that I sell at the place is mine, so I don't have to give back to them. All I'm doing is selling. I'm not even selling the shirt, but I'm giving them the product. So do you write off what I would have charged for that shirt, or do you write off my cost for the shirt, or can you not write it off?
In that wrestling, are they a nonprofit? Are they a registered 501c?
Yeah.
Sure. Then I will say the value of the shirt donated is what you would write off as a charitable donation. Unfortunately, our time we can't attach a number to when it comes to charitable donations. Miles, though, like the miles driven to the event is considered charitable miles, so that can be a cost, right? I do believe they give you 14 and some cents. There's 14 cents per mile charitable. That adds up to go along with your charitable deduction, but the miles and the cost of everything that was given, but your time that went into that, like you can't say, oh, well, I charge $100 an hour. It took me 2 hours to make that shirt, so I'm gonna give them, give me a $200 deduction. We can't do that. But the actual physical cost of the shirt and the drive to and from can definitely be considered charitable donations.
I wrote it off last year. I was just making sure it was good.
Gotcha.
I have a tax guy, but I don't use my tax guy.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we got an IRS question right here from Ryan.
I see. Is the IRS actually going to track the 600? Yes. So I know this is like a big deal right now, especially with the independent contractors, with all of the fintech having to report the IRS transactions. The answer is, how can I say? It's a yes if this, right? So the yes is if you have like signed up for any kind of the business applications with Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal. If you click any link that says this is a business account, then they are definitely going to report to the IRS any kind of transactions over $600 or more. However, even if it's not on the business and it's a personal side, I do believe they're still going to report transactions of $600 or more. But here's the thing with that: if we know, or so to say, if you know that, okay, for this, all of that money, that $600 wasn't business like that, I was reimbursing my cousin for when we went to the bar or something like that. Keep track of that, right? Because that what we're going to have to do, and I'm gonna tell y'all now, because this is new to the IRS. It is definitely going to be some mistakes made on their part. Okay. So what we want to do as tax professionals, or says taxpayers, we want to track everything. We want to be able to say to the IRS, yeah, this form reported $1,000, but not all of that is business. A lot of that was reimbursements, but you got to be able to show them that. Because if you have evidence to say that of that $1,000, 700 was reimbursements, we can submit that along with the tax return and not have to report $700 of that 1,000 on the tax return. But we are going to need something to substantiate that. That's what we're, as tax professionals, that's what we are anticipating come 2023.
Yeah, so I asked, when I was setting up my bank accounts, when I switched over to LLCs and stuff, I was asking the bank about that, about putting money in the bank, about $600, like putting money in the bank. And she said they don't track anything that ain't over 5,000 or 10,000 in a bank account.
Well, the banks don't report to the IRS anything under $9,999.
Yeah.
Right. So the moment you put a deposit into your account, $10,000 or more, the bank has a responsibility of reporting it.
I wish I could put that much in there.
Now,
Hey, it's
now
coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
We
I
gonna
got
get there for sure.
Yeah.
But
I got a question about
fintech,
that.
go ahead.
So Bank of America a few years back, and I don't bank with Bank of America anymore. One of the reasons was this because I was also doing a lot of business transactions, and we were high cash volume business. They started in 2018, no 2017. They started $2,500, and I know the federal is at $10,000,
Mhm.
but Bank of America said no. We're tracking anything that's over $2,500. Can the bank do that?
I mean, the banks with their own internal systems, because they try to watch out for embezzlement and frauds and things like that. They do have their own internal investigations that they do. But as far as having to report to the IRS and to the government, the limit is 10.
Okay. Now we got another question on expense proof. Credit card bills or bank statements, are those enough proof for your expense report?
I'm going to say yes and no. And the only reason I'm going to say no is because not all the time when you look at a statement does it say what was purchased. Sometimes you look at a line item on a statement and it'll just have some like some random numbers, right? Like so, because it's happened to me, right? Like I use Zero for my bookkeeping and it imports my bank transactions, and I realized that if I don't reconcile my accounting system on a weekly basis, and I forget what a transaction is, but I'm trying to, and I'm looking at this line and it's just a bunch of numbers with like a random name, and I have no idea what that purchase was for. Like, so I'm trying to figure out, was it like what did I buy? What is that? So in that instance, it's kind of hard. And the IRS, well, should I say the tax courts, right? Because that's what we worried about. The tax courts, if it's not clearly identifiable as to what that purchase was for and the business purpose, then they could disallow it, right? So sometimes the bank statements, it clearly says Amazon purchase, or it clearly says, Home Depot or something like that, then we can justify that as a business expense. But if it's like just some garble on that line item, then it'd be hard to prove.
PayPal is very known for that. If I buy something online, I have all my credit cards on PayPal, so I'm able to select that. So it's very hard because you don't know where it really comes from when you buy
Right.
it through PayPal.
Well,
Yeah, I think it
also,
was PayPal I was dealing with when I was trying to figure out what that was too. Yeah.
It's
but
very
also
hard.
when you're doing your end of the year taxes, don't you got to know what category it belongs into? So let's say you're ordering stuff from Amazon. If you're ordering something for the house, ordering something for the business, what part of the business? Like, is it fixture? Is it equipment? Is it, like,
Absolutely.
we order toners. I just order lights. This is, on the same Amazon account because I order all this stuff for this stream. So, but that's coming out of my expense. It's not coming out of my business because I'm not writing this off as a business unless I take
Why not?
this setup. No, no. Well, hold on.
I'm like, so why not?
That was a follow up.
I did
That was a
too.
follow up. See, there were some lights. Okay, so now if you guys saw me a couple weeks ago, my light was bad, and I use a shop light, and the shop light kept on going down. So Tim had given me a recommendation on some stuff. I ordered some lights that were $100 some. Now I got lights that cost $200 some, but these change colors, so I can do different moods and stuff. So the whole reason I'm actually spent $200 some on these lights is because guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use it for here in the beginning, but eventually I'm gonna move this over to the business side, take some good shots of vehicles that we do, and now I have a business expense because now I'm gonna actually use it for the business. And as a side plus for me as a business owner, if I'm using this as a personal, but I'm still using this for on the business, I can still write this off as a business because ultimately it is being used for a business. Correct?
Yeah. Well, okay. So if I'm hearing right, you said you bought the lights on a personal side, but you're going to eventually move them over to the business side, and then at that point you'll write them off. So let me say, when it comes to what we purchase and its purpose, Um, it's really all about just changing the facts. And this is not nothing illegal, but if you're on this show, even though it was paid for with your personal card, is probably in your personal space, but because you're doing this live stream, you're mentioning your business. It can be part of your marketing expense for your business. So you don't necessarily have to wait for you to use the lights in your business to do business. No, you're using this equipment right now to promote your business because you talk about your business during the show. Therefore, this is now a promotional whatever you're paying for to make this happen is promotional. And you talking about your business because you literally just mentioned your business right now. And everybody who's listening is now been made aware that you have a business, and there you go. That is, what they consider to be in the pursuit of income. So it's an expense.
Absolutely. So I'm going to laugh a little bit with this question because I already know the answers. So
There's a question below we got from Shady J.
Shady
I have
J
a
wants to know
question for that tax pro. Why don't you like LLCs? I asked this because of your T-shirt.
Man, okay. Tim, yeah, we are going to get a good the reason I don't like LLC, let me not say, okay, let me back up. I don't not like LLCs, right? Like I agree that LLCs have their place in the business world, obviously because they exist. This shirt here is to try to educate our community that one, you don't need, the key word being need, an LLC to start your business. And I'm on this soapbox with the no LLC because of social media. Like you hear everybody that's a guru is telling you, get multiple LLCs, have them taxed as S corps, do this, do that. And I'm like, why? If somebody is just beginning, you don't need that, because when you come sit down with me, then I'm telling you, okay, well, you have an LLC. Well, then we need to fill out this form. We need to do this. We need to submit that to the state, and it's going to cost this amount of money. They like, well, why? I didn't know it was going to cost that much. And I'm like, that's the point. You don't need it in the beginning when you first start your business. There are so many other things that's more important than starting your business than forming an LLC. And so I'm on a mission to really help educate, because when I say it, people don't realize. They be like, oh, I thought I didn't need an LLC to start a business. I literally had somebody send me a comment that said they haven't started their business, or they've been waiting, and it's been 3 years now since they've been waiting to start their business because they were trying to figure out the LLC. And I'm like, to me, that's ridiculous. 3 years? You know how much opportunity is missed? You know how much money is missed because you are waiting to try to figure out an LLC when it's not needed. So it's not the fact that I hate LLCs, it's the fact that I hate what influencers are trying to get people to do with LLCs, which is causing people to wait and not move forward and confuse the public. And then they get shocked when they come sit down with the tax preparer and it's like, yeah, well, it's going to cost you this much. And I'm like, how much did it save you? Like, what's the point? But if I can say, like me and Tim had the conversation, there is reasons for forming an LLC, right? Like the first reason you want to form an LLC is if you know for a fact that you're going to make $100,000 in profit, not gross. We got to look at the profit, because if you're going to make $100,000 in net profit, forming an LLC and having taxes and S corp can actually save you money on taxes. And the reason I said $100,000 because we have to consider how much is it going to cost you to save that amount of money. Because if it costs you $5,000 to save $3,000, then the math isn't mathing. You might as well spend the $3,000, save the $2,000. But a lot of people don't tell you that. So at $100,000, when I've ran the numbers, when I've done the calculations, you actually can afford the administrative and the operation costs of the LLC, taxes, and S corp, and still save money. So that's why I put the $100 threshold.
100,000.
Huh?
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000 threshold, right? Profit, not gross, profit.
Profit.
The second reason is to get an LLC is if for what Tim and I call purchasing power. right? Like if you know, and here's my thing, here's my disclaimer. If you know for a fact within 2 years, meaning that you have a business plan, you've ran the numbers, you set out their projections, and you can say, okay, well, within 2 years, I may need to go ahead and get some additional funding and some additional capital with my business, then I'm gonna say, okay, yeah, start the LLC now, because it's going to take 2 years to build up the business credit profile. And so the only way to really build business credit is with an actual entity, and the LLC is able to do that. And then my third one is if you're dealing with paper contracts. Like if you actually signing contracts and you're negotiating contracts with people, then form an LLC, because when it comes to litigation, that's where LLCs really shine.
So you're saying, like, and obviously we're a lot of tinners are watching us. They're tinning people's houses or businesses or for government, that type of stuff. Is that the kind of paperwork you're talking about, or are you
Not,
in general just saying like other type of documents?
I'm gonna say other type of documents that require contracts, because what you're talking about, like it is anytime you do business with a customer, right? Like that is technically you're contracting to perform a service for a certain amount by a certain day, right? That is technically a contract. But I'm referring to, like, if you're going to do like if you're going to sign a contract for $500,000 to tent multiple buildings with a major company, right? Like, and y'all sitting down with lawyers and teams and things like that, and there's big money on the table, and y'all signing those kind of contracts. If you got those deals, then by all means it makes sense, because in the courts, if the LLC, what should I say, if you as the owner default on that contract, then the LLC steps in and kind of helps protect out. But also keep in mind that if the LLC doesn't have its own money, its own capital to cover the damages, the court still can't find the owner personally liable. So
yeah, I was trying to have I told you about this. I was trying to have a conversation with the guy in the tent group about that, saying, yeah, just because you have an LLC, if they sue you for $200,000 and you only have $100,000, they still are going to go take your house, take your cars.
it's possible, yeah. I mean, we look at, what was it, the Jones guy from Free Speech Systems LLC, almost $1 billion in lawsuits that he, like, the courts hired an auditor, and the case, well, based on what I was reading, when the courts hired the auditor, they was like, yeah, his company, excuse me, has so much money, but his company also paid him $60-some million. So they're like, oh, okay, well, we want that too, even though he has an LLC, so it's like it doesn't provide the kind of protection that a lot of people think it does. And you can Google LLC court cases, and you can see where, yeah, in some cases it actually did protect its owner, and a lot of cases it didn't.
So it's a small shield basically for a lot of litigation, is what you're saying, but it's not a Captain America shield. It's not something that that's going to protect you. It's just an extra step.
What it is.
What you're just trying to do, basically.
Exactly.
And one of the reasons I did it is because it's $100 for LLC, or $40 to be what is that word, to
for the DBA?
Yeah, to be registered, so I can get a bank account, so I have bank account people can write me checks. That was the only reason I went LLC, and I plan on buying more machines, and I wanted to not use my personal and use that.
I'm gonna follow up on Tim on that. So LLC also kind of doesn't it kind of protects you? I'm asking this. Does it protect you? So let's say you signed up a 3-year contract with Comcast, and now you're out of business. So Comcast, or let's say you signed up a lease, like Tim said, he got that machine. I know Tim talked about getting something from somebody else's money because, well, I just got $200,000 worth of equipment, and it's on my business side, and it's something that's financed out because, I want to take the tax advantages of it and the depreciation and all that stuff out of it. But let's say I signed a 5-year contract with that company to pay off these $200,000 over time. Now, in 2 years, or let's say tomorrow, my business belly ups, and does the LLC protect me from that company coming back and saying that I'm going to come and get your house and your car and whatever you got in your personal account to cover the cost for that equipment just because
Yeah.
you're not in the business.
Now, in that instance, again, like I say, dealing with contracts and big numbers, I would say LLC definitely comes into that, because at that point, let me ask this here, because this is also what we got to really understand. Did you personally guarantee it?
Now, that was my other thing. So there is no contract out there that does not have a little personal guarantee without it. I haven't seen them. Okay. So
It's
there is a
possible.
Oh, I mean, they are possible. When you talk about the big fishes and big stuff, yeah, you can do that. But when you're talking about even on this $200,000, there's a little small section that says personal guarantee on there, but it's a limited personal guarantee. You know, they asked for a more detailed personal guarantee, and that's where I told them, like, you want to give me the equipment or not? I'm not doing any intense personal guarantee on it. I'm gonna say it's gonna be in good faith, as long as I'm doing it in good faith and I'm not there to rob them or do them intentionally. From my understanding, is that as long as you're doing good faith and you just have the bad luck of being out of business because you didn't have the clientele, you had too much expense or whatever, it's not like you're taking that, like you said, $30 million as a payroll. If you're taking the right amount of payroll, you're doing everything you're supposed to, but your business just didn't make it. Okay, can you get out of the contract? So with that being said, and then on those small personal guarantees, I was told for that instance, yes, if you're there to initially or intentionally defraud the system, then that's where those cases come in, and they can come into your personal stuff and say, hey, listen, you did this intentionally, you're gonna have a judgment against you.
Right. Well, that's true too. But any kind of personal guarantee. I mean, let's look at the name, the title, personal guarantee. Right, like you backed it somehow, some way. So they may not be able to come after your assets, personally. Like they're not gonna come take your home or anything like that. But they may place a judgment against you when it goes on your personal credit.
Right.
So whatever the LLC say, for if it's $200,000 worth of equipment, over the years it depreciated, the business goes under. Now the equipment may be worth 150,000, but you still owe them 180,000 on it, right? So they cash out. They gonna get the value of the equipment at 150, but that $30,000 is still owed to them. So
Right.
if the LLC can't pay it because you personally guarantee it, they're gonna come after you with the credit collections. Not to say that they about to come take your assets and things like that, but if your social is on there, you have now just tied yourself to the remaining balance, which they would hold you personally liable for.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. We got a
Yeah.
question down here by Jeremy. It says, I am a new shop owner. How much should I
Congratulations.
expect a CPA to cost?
It depends, right? Like if you're a new shop owner, are you just a sole proprietor? Are you an LLC, single member LLC? Because that definitely comes into play. I will say that every year we always have like a list of what most people charge for returns, right? That always comes out. And I could say, honestly speaking, if you're paying somebody, especially CPA, depending on where you are, you're looking anywhere between, I've seen as low as $400 for like Schedule C's, because that's what the tax return is, a Schedule C for a small business, anywhere between $400. Some people have a minimum of $1,200. So I would definitely shop around, right? Because at $1,200 for a simple Schedule C, what are you getting? Right. Like I would definitely shop around. If somebody's that high, find out what they're going for, but definitely expect somewhere within that $400 range.
He did clarify he's an LLC.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. So, for example, like I would still say $400 probably be the base price, depending on where you are, because certain states, the LLC has to file its own. Like here in California, LLCs, in addition to the Schedule C, have to file their own individual tax return. So that's an additional cost on top of that. So you have to keep that in mind as well. But then I say starting at around 400 or so bucks, which is another reason I'll be like, y'all don't start with it.
So I
Wait.
covered this couple streams ago, is having a cheap CPA or bookkeeper compared to a good CPA in the long run or in the ultimate end of the year. this guy, even though you pay him more, is most likely going to give you more business benefits and get you more deductions, proper coverage as well, and all that stuff. For example, I used to have a bookkeeper that used to cost me, I think it was 125 or 175. Now my bookkeeper costs me 500 monthly and 2500 annual and a whole bunch of stuff. But this guy I know is protecting me properly, making sure he's talking to me about what you cover on your last stream. You should be talking to your bookkeeper at least 3 or 4 times a year and continue to plan on what you're doing, what your structure is, where you're going, tax liabilities. That's where I'm going to bring out your, I love this caption that you did, line 15 on your taxes. You did this last Friday stream.
Yeah.
Hey, don't focus on what your income is, what your other thing is. Focus on what your bottom end is. Line 15. That is where you're going to get taxes at. And how do you, and then you bring on this bad boy right here because of this. Love your comment on a refund. I mean, some of the stuff I just took, man, your stuff just hit me so hard. And this is what people need to realize what it stands for. You know, you need to manage your finances so you don't owe. At the same time, you don't want to, refund is a refund. People need to understand what the tax refund, man, it's not free money that they're giving you. Unless, like you said, you're in poverty. Unless you're in poverty, it's your money that they're giving back to you. And why are you letting them have your money in the first place?
Exactly.
You know, so this is what's so, and like you said, you can double it, you can triple it, you can do so much stuff with your money instead of waiting for the government to give that back to you at the end of the year, or, you know, like they did last time, delay another 3-4 months for you to even get your own money back.
Absolutely.
You know, that's where we got to realize, guys, we got to educate ourselves. We got to plan out properly, and we got to take the most advantages we can with the government, with the banks, with everything, man. We got to work smarter and harder to improve ourselves.
Absolutely.
Please follow our professional right here, the
Self-Employed Tax Guy.
Yeah, Self-Employed Tax Guy. He's got his own YouTube. He's was doing every Friday, from what I heard. He's gonna switch that out to do it once a month, but he's got a group that you guys can join in and follow him and get your answers, you know, that you got coming in. And it's very, very detailed, man. I mean, I've seen only a couple couple lives. I've seen a couple of your quick clips on the LLC stuff. Man, I just love all your work. Honestly, I just gotta say, I love it. It is a pleasure having you here. It is very informative. I'm learning a lot, even though, like, you know, I try to educate myself continuously. I was told this years ago, and I took it to heart, is that you're never too old to learn, and never say that you know everything. So just like you said, tax laws are changing. You don't know what 23's got because they're not going to release that until what was the 15th or the 16th of January, you
Probably
said?
16th of January, yeah.
Right. So even a professional that knows all this stuff is still waiting for the January 16th to make sure that he's caught up with all that stuff. And when you ask, well, what kind of CPA you should be spending money on, this is what you need to ask your CPA or get to the bottom of is how well or how educated is he? What he's going to perform? How often is he, you know, updating his information? So there's CPAs or bookkeepers that will go through the bookkeeper, you know, licensing or course, and then they don't look at it, and they might be 5 years behind on their information, and you're not taking the full advantages that you should have from somebody that you have to pay a little bit more out. But if you pay somebody a little bit more, you got to realize you're probably going to get more back. So don't take the cheap way always, just like on anything. Don't get that, you know, dyed film. You know, the ceramic's got some benefits in it, bro. I'm not saying go super ceramic or go, you know, all the way, but, you know, look at what you need to be. Don't go spend $2,000 on your CPA. But like Tyrone said, you need to value your CPA, look at him, what he's got, do some reviews. I always said, if you can get a reference, that's even best, because then you can go off with somebody that knows or dealt with them. There's a lot of companies that don't return your calls. They're not on time. All that stuff kind of adds up.
Yeah. And if I may add to that, man, you're absolutely right. You know, the more you pay, you definitely should get more value out of your CPA. So don't feel, how can I say, like, don't feel bad asking questions, right? Like, you have to interview your CPA, right? Because they're handling your business finances. You want to make sure that this person is in line with what your goals are for your business, which means that you should definitely have some clear financial goals for your business. And once you have those, and you can say, hey, here's what I'm trying to achieve. Can you help me achieve that? And if they can literally sit down with you and map out some things for you, then you may have found a fit. And of course, for that kind of individual, you expect to pay more. But if you just want, because this is how, again, how I got started in the business, I just took my paper. I remember doing my taxes, right? I would go to this place and it was a plexiglass. And I went in and I just slid it under the slot, right? Gave my paperwork, sat down in the lobby, and they called me. We were just done, and I signed it, right? Like if that's what you want to do, then you're going to pay cheap for that kind of service, right? Because their whole goal of that kind of accounting firm is to just turn and burn. They just want to get you in and get you out. And what happened to me is they got me in and got me out and got me audited, right? So it's like, definitely. Do your research, find somebody that's going to fit you, fit your goals, and know what you do, or you go cheap and pray for the best.
I got my own little question here. Car write-offs, end of the year purchasing. I know you covered in one of your lives the other day. On that stuff, guys, watch this guy's live. He'll explain keeping your money. Don't go spend just because you heard it on social media or you heard somebody say, hey, man, it's the end of the year. I got to take all these tax benefits. He talks very detailed about that if you got $10,000 that you got to spend in your taxes, but you go buy a $50,000 car, what are you really doing? If I remember correctly, right, Tyrone?
That was the whole, because you hear a lot about it, right? Like, oh, go buy you a G-Wagon right off a Lamborghini. You can really bring your taxes down to zero. And like when I did the example of the person who had a profit of 190,000, right? And they wanted and the tax on that profit was $50,000, right? So the 190,000 of taxable income, their federal tax came up to like 49,000 and some change. And I'm like, I get it. $50,000 is a lot of money to just pay in taxes. I absolutely understand. But if they did the G-Wagon play, if they would have took the 190,000 profit, went and bought this car, it would have cost them, after fees, after APR, after everything else, it would have cost them $219,000 in total. Yes, they could have depreciated it, the full value, wiped out the 190,000, and guess what? When they wiped out the 190,000, they got rid of the $50,000. But you literally just spent $200,000 to get rid of 50. Like, that doesn't make sense. But people do it all the time because it sounds like we did something sexy. Oh man, I went and bought this car. I did a section 179, wrote the whole thing off. Now I ain't paying no taxes. Yeah, but you spent $200,000 not to pay 50. Like, I'd rather pay the 50 and keep 150 and reinvest that money. So it's like we just got to really understand what's being told to us, because a lot of things sound good, right? Like I was told a long time ago, to the unknown, nothing is obvious, right? Like if we don't know this, how that works, we gonna go spend this money so we can not pay taxes. But it's like, let's be smart about our money. Let's keep our money and do more things with it.
Like you said, know your numbers.
Man, you have to. That is what the wealthy does. Like people say, if billionaires can do it, why can't we? And the billionaires are laughing at y'all or laughing at us because they're like, that ain't what we doing.
It looked like that. Bringing on the billionaires. I've got that Trump, comment that you put out there. I know you say he's got 7 or 17 cases on fraud, but then you also did cover on what he did a decade ago on taxes, that he showed a loss, and because he showed us such a big loss, that he can take, how many was it, 10 or 20 years he can take that loss for? 20 years he can keep on forwarding that loss until it gets even or above it,
until he uses it up.
Or you said they can actually go back 5 years and apply to those taxes. Now,
Correct.
I understood the forward part. How do you apply to the back taxes?
Great question. And the simple answer is an amendment.
Okay.
You would go back, and so what Trump, like using Trump's example, and again, and I said this on the live, right? When we look at our taxes, Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they all file the same tax return that you and I do. Like there is no special tax return for individuals who make money, which means that whatever they are allowed to do, we are allowed to do. Right. So when Trump said he didn't pay any taxes and now it's being revealed to us why, is because 10 years ago, he took a loss on, I'm assuming it's going to be real estate, because that's probably what he was big into back then. So he took over a couple of years period, he accumulated over $1 billion worth of losses. Right. And so that negative number on his tax return, which is now every time he files taxes going forward, that negative number is going to be eaten up by any other taxable income he has. So when you have what they call a net operating loss, you have an option. You can carry it backwards. So say, for example, if you and I, and which is why I'm saying this because I'm encouraging us to really know our numbers, because if we end up with a loss, take it, right? Like it's a benefit. I've heard so many people say, well, I didn't claim it because I lost money. Or I didn't want to put it on there because I lost out. So whatever, claim your losses. So for example, if you and I had a $10,000 loss this year, well, like let's say when we file our taxes in 2023, we end up with a loss. But in our past, maybe 2 years ago, we ended up on the IRS $5,000. Well, we can take that $10,000 loss that we just incurred, go back to the year where we owed them, and apply it via an amendment and get that money back. Or we can say, you know what, I already paid it. It's a loss. It's gone. It's over with. I'm going to take this $10,000 and I'm going to move it forward. So I'll have it just in case as something to help me offset any other taxable income for the next 20 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was good. So Shady J, when we were talking about the not t-shirts, but when we were talking about starting the LLC, he said he's on the edge of getting an LLC or not. Now he might not be in here anymore, but his backstory is he's selling t-shirts he's selling them online or whatever. So anybody can buy them, all that good stuff. I would say, and Drew would probably say, if you're not making $100,000, he could sell t-shirts through a website and just be a sole proprietor. Correct?
Absolutely.
Instead of being an LLC.
Absolutely. I don't encourage LLCs in the absolute beginning. To me, when you're first starting a business, your first priority is to make the sale. Because without a sale, you literally have no business. If you have all of these things, but you're not selling anything, you're not a business. Even if you have an LLC, but you're not making no money, where's the business?
Yep.
So I got a question down here. Are the audits truly random? You know, you hear this all the time. The IRS is doing random audits. Is there any light to that? Or the follow-up question with that is why someone may get audited?
So audits are, how can I say? They are random, but at the same time, it can be triggered. Let's say that, right? Because some audits, like I say, not every audit is a bad audit unless you're just absolutely not prepared for the audit, right? Because sometimes the IRS, they are human. They are human just like you and I. If you think about that, they are not monsters. They are not gods. They're not, these mythical beings. They're human just like us. And I say this, means they make mistakes. For example, I had a lady, she got audited, and then the audit doesn't mean they come into your house with badges. An audit means that they're going to send you a letter in the mail and they're going to ask a question, right? Their question is simply going to say, our records show this. This is what you reported on your tax return. There's a discrepancy. Help us figure it out. That's literally all an audit is, right? So this lady received a paper audit, and the only reason she ended up in my office is because she wanted to know how to write the check. But I was saying, wait a minute, before we write the check, let me look and make sure that it's correct. And upon doing so, she was getting ready to write the check for $3,000. But after looking at her tax return, I saw what the IRS was saying. I was like, no, they're incorrect. You only owe them $25. And so when I say it's random, yeah, it was some folks do get random, and it's simple, just reply, send them what they want, call it a day. But then there are certain things that can trigger an audit.
So a follow-up with that kind of, so if you're going through TurboTax, which I've been going through TurboTax for 8 years, 9 years, doing it myself, obviously a business owner now, it's a little bit more trickier. But when they say, do you want to pay extra for audit protection? Is that something that if you're doing it yourself through TurboTax, you should pay that little extra to have that audit protection? Or is it something that you probably should just hold off, and if you get audited, maybe come see you, say, hey, look at my taxes, or what? Because it does cost extra money. Truth.
Okay.
Tell the truth. Come on. Come on.
So here's the deal with that. So here's the deal, right? Because I worked, like I said, before I became self-employed, I worked for a big box retail tax prep company, right? And they used to have us push audit protection on the client. That was a big selling point. It's insurance. And if you understand the insurance game, the game of insurance, they're banking on you not ever using the service, but paying for it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so when I was pushing the audit service, like I like to read the fine print and the detail. And I would always get in trouble because they're like, well, you're not selling it. And I'm like, well, the reason is because the fine print says you only will pay out if it's our fault. Right? So that's my thing. When it comes to the audit insurance, read the fine print, because if they only gonna pay out if they find you at fault, then what's the point of paying for it? Because the result is gonna be the same. You know, so if you made a mistake and you actually owed $3,000 instead of $2,000 with the audit protection or not, you still about to pay the difference.
So what would it cost? What would it cost? Say I didn't go through you to do taxes. What would it cost somebody to go to a tax professional to try to help them with the audit? Like that lady, if that lady didn't use you, I'm not sure if she used you or not for the taxes, but if she didn't use you and she wanted to come to you, what would a typical charge from a tax person charge to help you with an audit if you can't figure it out yourself?
So that's to me, we talking to this. So for me too, because I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS, right? Like I actually can represent taxpayers across all 50 states, being an enrolled agent. So if we're going through an actual audit, right, like the courts, like the IRS has assigned an actual IRS agent to the case, and we have to communicate back and forth and send all these documents, you know, my fee is like $99 an hour for me to be able to go through this, right? So that's when we going through an actual audit where there's an auditor been assigned and I got to sign a power of attorney because now I got to represent you in the tax courts. That's something different versus when that lady came in, there's something called, you know, second looks. Like if you just want a second look, like I've already done it, can you just kind of skim through it and see if there's anything I'm missing? A lot of times that's free. Like, you know, we don't really charge for, like, for me, you know, second looks, like, you know, as long as it's not something that I'm about to actually like redo the tax return, then I'll take a look at it and I can just, oh, well, yeah, okay, I see this is missing. Maybe go back and correct that. That's free. Now, but some people do charge. Some people, you know, depending on where you go, some people do charge. So it may be, I would say, free to $100 maybe. Yeah, depending.
Hey, that's the first thing that popped in my head. It was like, if I ever got audited, you know, and I didn't pay for that, like, I mean, then now it makes more sense why I've always denied it.
Right.
To add to Tyrone's thing is he's an enrolled agent. Not all CPA are enrolled agent. That is
Correct.
another thing that you want to check out with your bookkeeper or your CPA, is that if they're enrolled agent, guys, this is very important, because what that means is that they can either go with you or represent you uh, in front of the IRS and talk to the agent or the IRS direct for you or with you, where your CPA, if they're just a regular CPA, cannot do that. So that is a little difference, right, Tyrone?
Right, it
From what I
is.
was told. So,
Absolutely.
guys, make sure that if you are looking for Jeremy, if you're still here and you're looking at a CPA, I definitely highly recommend that you do get somebody that is also enrolled agent, because they have to take a continuous course and stay up with the IRS for them to be able to represent you. And like he said, he can get a power of attorney. You don't even have to be there. He can represent you or your company
Exactly.
and do that. So that is a very key point, guys. That is a little tip that you want to have in your pocket. And when you're either looking at your bookkeeper or CPA, or you're currently looking at your bookkeeper and CPAs, you may want to go have that conversation, because if you ever get in that state, our thing is to have the best protection for ourselves, protect our family, protect ourselves, and how we're going to do it smartly. Okay, so these are little
Yes.
tools that everybody wants to focus on, pay attention to, and hopefully improve ourselves and our community.
Yeah. Indeed, indeed. Protect your profits.
That's right. Know the numbers.
I was just about to
All
say
right.
that.
All right. Well, somebody asked this question on one of my comments and stuff, is what is a tax credit or a write-off? They want to understand, what is it, when somebody comes in, hey, say, get this, you can do it as a tax write-off. What does that truly mean for you? What is a tax credit or a write-off?
So, great question, by the way. But there is a difference in the tax code. You have credits, and you have deductions, right? Credits reduce taxes, right? Like I think when we looked at the live last Friday, when we ended up on line 16, right? We had an amount that was on the tax. Like, this is your tax liability. This is the amount that the IRS says you owe. But when you can get a credit would actually go towards that. For example, the child tax credit. I think in last week's live, the tax liability was 15,000, right? But if you have a child, they'll give you a $3,000 credit towards that tax. So instead of paying 15,000, you would then pay 12. Does that make sense? So credits are applied towards taxes. Now, write-offs is what allows us to reduce our taxable income. Now, remember, taxable income is that line 15 amount before the tax. So the write-offs help us, and think both of them do help us reduce our total tax liability at the end of the day. Like, if I'm gonna summarize it, both of them help do that. It's just that they do it in different ways. A write-off, like we're gonna talk about this Friday when we go live on our Schedule C. If you start off with 100,000, you write off 25,000. Well, then your taxable income is only going to be 75,000, right? And if you wrote off 25,000 and you got taxable income of 75, you still can get a tax credit to help reduce the tax even further. So it really just where they come in on a tax return, but ultimately both tax credits, deductions, write-offs, and adjustments help us reduce our overall tax burden.
Yeah, for sure.
So follow up on that. How does donations affect your income or your tax return? Like, so donations, whatever you donate, is that the total amount that comes off of what your taxes are due? So let's say at the end of that, your line 15 is $10,000, and if you donated $2,000, now your tax liability is only 8,000? Do you get 100% of the donations towards your tax liability?
Now, are we talking about like charitable donations?
Yeah, charitable donation. Let's talk about what we can actually prove. Not giving out to the homeless guy, but let's say you donated to your church. You donated
Mhm.
to we got a tenner for a cause. They give you a receipt. You do it online. They give you a receipt right off there. So let's say I donated. I just donated $100 just a couple days ago. So that $100, what does that benefit me as as a donation towards my taxes? Do I get $100 off if I owe $10,000? Now I owe $900, or do I only get a portion of that donation towards my taxes?
It depends. And actually, let me show you this. I'm gonna disappear for a second. I'm gonna put this 1040 on the screen there.
Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna make this bigger. That's not what I was trying to do, but let's see. Nope, that made it smaller. There we go.
All right. So if we look right here, right, line 12, where it says standard deduction or itemized. So the or is what's key right there, because you can do one or the other, right? And when we look at the standard deduction is something that the IRS is going to give you based on your filing status without doing anything. Like you don't have to do anything at all to get the standard deduction. Is what they're going to automatically give you. And over here to the left of that, in this box here, it gives you the standard deductions amount. For somebody who's single, married, filing separately, they have a standard deduction of $12,950. For somebody who's married, filing joint, they're going to have a standard deduction of $25,900. If they're head of household, meaning that they're single but they have children, they get a standard deduction of $19,400, right? So when we look at that, that's the number that you're going to get automatically based on your filing status, whether you're single, married, filing joint, head of household, you're going to get that standard deduction automatically. And what the standard deduction is, if we look over here on line 12, it is a number that is going to subtract, again, reducing our adjusted gross income before we get to line 15. So when we look at that, our goal, when we itemize, when you're talking about, okay, if I make $2,000 contribution to, if I'm gonna make a $2,000 contribution to charity, well, is that going to be more than the standard deduction? Because that's the goal, right? Like the standard, it has to be more than the standard deduction or it's not gonna make sense. So if you put $2,000 on this line, which we know is gonna help reduce line 15, would you rather reduce line 15 by 2,000 or would you rather reduce line 15 by 12,000? And that's the question that we have to ask ourselves when it comes to those donations. So anytime we do that, the goal is to say, okay, if I'm going to itemize, meaning I'm going to look at my charitable donations, I'm going to look at my mortgage interest, my property taxes, I'm going to look at, my vehicle registration and all of those things, because that's what we itemize. Is that going to be more than the standard deduction? If the answer is yes, then by all means, we taking it, because that's what's going to help get line 15 close to zero as legally possible. If the answer is no, then we ain't going to deal with it, because I'm trying to get line 15 down as close as possible. So I'm going to take the standard deduction because it's more. So again, when it comes to, okay, my deductions, because a lot of people say that, oh, well, I gave $5,000 to charity. Cool. What else you got? Because $5,000 is not going to be more than the $12,000. And my goal as your tax professional is to get you as close to zero as possible. So I'm going to take the higher number. So again, I'm comparing the two. And this, guys, this is strictly on the 1040. So anybody has access to it. If they want to, they can just go to IRS.gov, type in 1040, and they can look and see what those standard deduction is. And they can make a decision on themselves, like, okay, am I going to use this or that based on this number? They don't even need they don't need to hire a CPA or anything like that. That information is right there for them, available for free.
Yeah, or you can go watch his last live and you can go through each individual line. And I almost felt like I became a bookkeeper just by going and watching his live just from last week. Very detailed. Again, thank you so much, Gregory. You are very detailed on what you do. You are very informative. It is very helpful. Just the knowledge by itself, man, for me personally is a big benefit. And again, I want to really thank you for coming out and joining us today and and answering all these questions. We still have about 8 or 9 people watching us. I don't see any questions coming in. Tim, you got anything that you want to ask? Because I know we're over our 1 hour that we originally planned on. We're close to,
Oh
hour and
man, that
24
means
minutes. So,
we
when
were
you're having
having fun,
fun,
right?
yeah, when you're having
Yeah,
fun, time flies, guys.
time
Like whether
flies.
you're at work or
Yeah,
wherever you're at, when you're having fun, time flies. So this was a very, for me, this was a very great live stream. Again, thank you, Gregory. If Tim doesn't have a question, I do have one final question.
I
I'm
mean,
here for it.
the one thing that I would like to say is like, I support, obviously I have 2 businesses, correct? Right. I have the t-shirt business and the tent business. I want to make I want everything big. You know what I mean? At some point I'm going to be too busy at the t-shirt business to work with the tent business, blah, blah, blah. Obviously I'm going to have to find somebody, but from me, I found Tyrone from the t-shirt side of my world on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And obviously Cash, I got you from, the tent world and all that kind of stuff, doing your own personal logos on your company stuff and all that good stuff too. But I mean, I do like, I like to support everybody, and I'm glad, and I like bringing him over here. So hopefully anybody else has any questions from both of my sides, the t-shirt or the tent side, and maybe watching on my YouTube, that's going to be great for everybody, and, share all the knowledge for sure.
Yeah,
Indeed,
this
indeed.
right
I
here
appreciate it.
is because of tent community. I've been in the automotive business for 25 plus years, guys.
Oh
I just
wow.
joined tent community a couple of years ago, and just seeing these guys came up with this, and somebody told me to make a logo, and I just made this logo recently. Hopefully it sticks, and maybe it will improve it, but this was probably, Shady put me onto Canvas. I did that on that, so guys, we are learning always. Again, like somebody had commented earlier, don't forget God, be charitable, help each other out, make life better for yourself, but also for your community and your fellow, human being, your
That's the
friend.
important part. Yeah.
So this is all our own personal time. Tim, thank you so much for bringing Gregory on. Gregory, thank you so much for being on here. I do have that last question I'm gonna throw up on here
Let's
before
go.
I let you go home, because I want to know what's the battle going with you and your daughter, and how is it going? I want to know that.
Oh man, that is
I told you I'm
funny.
bringing the
That is
heat,
funny.
man. I want to know. I want to know.
You know what? It is going. It's going good for me. I think I'm winning. We literally were just laughing at it last night, because even still, like Tim can back me up on this. We did like a whole business mastery section last month, couple of months ago, and in one of the episodes we was talking about how, if you really want to organically grow, pumping up the volume, doing a lot more. And I was shocked. Like, my daughter had 10 posts on Instagram. Just giving some folks the backstory, right? She had 10 posts on Instagram. Nothing crazy, right? Because she know I'd kill her. But just her just doing silly faces, pictures with her friends, 10 posts, and had over 2,300 followers. And I looked at my page and I had like over 600 posts, and I had like maybe 1,200. And I'm like, what, how, why? Like, what is the algorithm, right? So I started putting out more content, and, eventually, it was like a, man, that night that it happened, my wife and I, because my wife obviously hearing it from both sides, right? We were sitting, and I'm like, baby, look, it's working, right? Like, the pump up the value strategy is working. Like, my goal, and this was the same as a business owner, my goal was to outdo my daughter on Instagram, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, look, it's working. I'm almost beating Crystal. And I remember when it hit, oh, we celebrated. Me and the wife, we went out. I was texting because she was at her friend's house. It was during Thanksgiving break, right? So she was out with her friends, and we in a group chat, because our family got a group chat, and I'm texting everybody, ooh, look, screenshots. I didn't pass her. And so recently, I think just yesterday, I'm in now at 2,700 followers on Instagram, and I sent her a screenshot because we was all out for my niece's birthday. And I made a big announcement at my niece's birthday party, like, I beat my daughter. I'm really outdoing her. And so her comeback was like, okay, Dad, Yeah, I'm about to post some more and
Ooh.
really beat you. So she's
So
challenging me.
there's a battle brewing there.
Yeah. So we'll see. Because she was like, okay, I guess at first she was like, whatever. But now that I've been bragging about it, she's about to come for me. So we'll see.
So how do we improve ourselves on that? Is there a way we can learn that, or how do we? What was I don't know if you were willing to share or able to share. How did that work? For a lot of these small guys, because a lot of our viewers are small time, tenors themselves or individual shop that is a business owner, and they're always looking for how to improve themselves and their business and their finances, and obviously uh, getting information and tips and tricks will always help them.
Yeah, I'll share it with you. I mean, like the whole business mastery seek, that's an entire course, right? I think that one is going to be released inside of our private community, the Self Employed Pro. But I will share this because it was just doing this one thing, really just increasing the amount of content that you put on your social media, but not just increasing the amount of content, specifically making sure that you have a plan for every piece of content that you put out on your social media. The biggest thing, make sure you have a clear call to action, because I think that was one of the biggest things that I did, me personally, that I started to see an improvement on. So every single post that I put out, my call to action is share this, tag somebody, save this post, do something, right? Because as humans, we for the most part do as we told subconsciously, right? Like if somebody say share this, oh, well, fine, I'll share it. Why? It didn't cost me nothing, didn't hurt nothing. But that's what we're programmed to do. So then just again trying to post as much as possible on these social media platforms, because one, it keeps you top of mind of your audience. It helps the algorithm. I'm saying that right. And it's free marketing, right? Like if you have if your social media page is set up where when somebody when like if somebody I heard that we go
We all got kids.
yeah
I'm
we
sorry.
do.
That's my daughter coming in, getting some water from my room,
It happens,
and
hey.
yelling. I apologize about that.
Hey,
Emma,
don't ever apologize for the
Can you
kids,
close the
man.
door? Close the door, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you don't have to apologize for the kids, man. I love them absolutely.
My
But
8-year-old comes in, and my 4-year-old follows right behind.
yeah, I love it. I love it. That's where mine come in. Come on into the camera, say hi. Say hi to the family. That's where we are. Absolutely.
Oh yes, I didn't touch up on that, man. I love that what you do on your concept, family, your whole emphasis, your whole thing, that whole uncle nephew. I love that, man. You make it that is beautiful. It is, man. I gotta give you props on that. That is beautiful. You make it very welcoming. You are treating everybody like family, and we can see that, man. Honestly, again, uh, I'm gonna thank for the people that actually produce what they're doing, man. I mean, you're doing something that's great for the community. You are
Appreciate it.
treating everybody like family, and then I truly believe you are the uncle cousin, you know, that
Yeah, yeah.
you state, man, and it is beautiful.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, man. Family is important. My family is the one who gave me the title of uncle cousin. So I consider us in our community, we family. We look out for each other, right? Like even think about it, like even with Tim, I'm here because of him, because he's part of the family, and he's looking out for his family, his community. Like, yeah, let's have this conversation, and that's what I love about it. That's what keeps me going. That's my why. So, man, I embrace the family idea 100%.
Yeah,
Right.
like I told him, he had started this or whatever, and then you were going right there, and I kind of mentioned it to him a little bit, and then as soon as I said it to you, no hesitation, it's like, yep, let's do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Anything I can do to help move us forward, to help save us money, to be successfully self-employed, then by all means, man, that is definitely what I'm going to do.
I guess
Guys,
that one.
this
Oh,
is
go
the
ahead.
link for. Oh, I'm sorry,
No, you're
Tim, I
good.
cut you off. This is the link to the self-employed tax guy for Gregory's I keep on saying calling you Gregory. I don't call you Tyrone. I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but I just want to give you
Man,
respect.
I got 3
on
first
it,
names. So either one works. My
Hey,
first
well,
name
from-
Tyrone, middle name Lavelle, last name Gregory. So it
Lavelle, you're in trouble, right?
yeah, exactly.
Timothy, you're in trouble.
That's
Right, right.
mine's Charles.
Oh, it's Charles.
So
Okay.
so if the wife say Charles, we know, hey.
Well, more backstory. I have 3 Tims in my house. I have my father-in-law, me, and my son. So we have a lot of Tims in the house. So.
All right, guys. So I shared the link for if you guys want to follow our special guest right here, this self-employed tax guy. There is his YouTube page that you can go subscribe. I definitely recommend for you guys. He's got so much helpful stuff. Even on the LLC, you know, whether you're considering like Shady was considering, should I get it? Should I not get it? Go watch some of his stuff. He's got some short clips that are 5-6 minutes long. There's a series of them. How many you got? Because I think I saw maybe 6 or something.
Yeah, 6. With the 7th one explaining my reasoning why.
Okay.
I'll take
He's got
6
short clips on those.
And I'll take credit for the playlist for that one.
Yes. Thank you. Matter of fact, shout out to you, sir.
I will get to that point. I don't have any buzzers. I don't have any music. You got great music taste. You know, I love that. You introduce with music. Eventually, hopefully, I will get to that point where we can entertain our audience a little bit better.
Well,
man, y'all doing a good job, man. Don't make this a goal.
Is to make this into like a classic radio show where we get actual participants, not only in the comments, but they come on this screen. We get to see some people, man. I was one of those guys that was afraid to come on the screen because of my big size. You know, I went to this event that kind of opened my eyes up, and I was like, you know what, I gotta. Somebody literally said, hey, man, you gotta rip that out and just go out there and be yourself, and you know, do whatever you can. So. You know,
and thank God you did, because now we're here. Like if you didn't, this would not exist, man. So congratulations to you for doing so.
You know what we do need
it.
for
Thank you,
you
sir.
know what we need for Cash's high five.
Oh, you give him high five? Let me see. Where's my high five? I got it somewhere here.
Oh.
There it is.
No voice this time. They didn't have the voice though.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much, man. This is for everybody. You know, whoever can benefit from this and whatever else we can do, we'll do that. Next week we're gonna focus more on credit cards and credit score building and some points and some helpful stuff, how to start credit and all that stuff. So, guys, if you're still watching this or if you are rewatching this, whatever. If there's anything we can improve on, please let us know. Again, our special guest, the self-employed tax guy. I gotta get that right. I'm bad, you know. It takes me time. It takes me time. So, Tyrone, thank you so much, sir. Tim, you got any last words or anything you want to add to it? Because you are the co-host, brother. I'm sorry if I made it feel like I'm taking over sometimes.
Hey, no, I mean, this is your show. I just tagged along. Like I said, I've sat in this chair all day long, and it's 8:30 at night, which is okay. But I've sat in here all along. I'm ready to go in the living room, get some dinner.
All right, sir. Yeah. You are the special guest. So, what do you have to end this show with? I think we'll go ahead and end it with whatever last words you got.
Oh man! First, before my last words, I want to really, encourage people to watch the one that you're gonna have next week for credit and everything, because that's important as a business owner. I know a lot of people are trying to encourage people to do all these things to get business credit and all this other stuff, and I'm like, if you put the same amount of energy and effort into your personal credit, building business credit will be a lot easier. And because it's not as simple. There's another reason I have the LLC thing, because people say, hey, I'm gonna form this LLC so I can get business credit. And I'm like, it don't work like that, right? So I'm definitely encouraging those who are watching live, still watching the replay, make sure you join in next week to find out about credit, because that is extremely important. Your personal credit is way more important than your business credit, because if you first starting out, your personal credit is going to be the foundation of your business credit. So definitely pay attention to that. And then as far as me goes, man, I just appreciate being here. I thank both you and Tim for having me on as a guest, man. It was a great experience. I had fun. It was live. I love the energy for both. Again, if anybody has any other questions, definitely the link is there. Find me on YouTube. Chime in with us this coming Friday, right? We're gonna be talking about taxes and the Schedule C. You'll definitely see Tim there. Tim is always there. He's the man. So,
I'm
man,
gonna put
again,
myself
thank you.
on there to be there. I'm gonna put a timer on because I always mess up. So I've now start putting timers on the phone, just like you said on the other stuff. You know,
Man, we
guys,
better
you
use
got you
this.
got this biggest tool in your pocket for a lot of stuff, man.
Yes.
Start learning to
Yeah.
use this thing.
Yeah.
We spent
Absolutely.
$1,000 some dollars on this bad boys, but we only use it for watching the TikTok videos and Facebook a little bit here and there. But there's a lot more stuff to this little gadget. But what time is your Friday show? So that way the audience can know that and they can be prepared for that.
7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know that's rather late for some folks, but
10
that seems
o'clock
to be
Eastern
working.
time.
Yeah.
So over here, if you're on the East Coast, it's 10 o'clock. But hey, it's about an hour long. Friday nights is a Friday night. I'd rather learn than go out party because I'm getting old and I need to save that money. I got 3 daughters that I gotta pay for college and weddings and all that stuff.
Daughters?
So I got 3 daughters, brother.
Oh
and
man, I'm
fourth,
praying for you,
fourth
brother.
little man, I need it. That's what I tell people, man. If I can do it, you can do it. You guys need to have that mindset. You got
I
one.
got one. It's like, woo, Lord.
Tim's got 2, man. I'm a four proud parent of 4 beautiful children, and I got one that's gonna be going to college pretty soon. So,
man,
we're dealing with the driver license issue right now. Teaching and praying for my life when I go do that. We haven't been able to get out of the parking lot yet, but our goal for Christmas is we're gonna take that step and we're gonna be outside the parking
That's
lot.
funny.
So
that's funny.
But and then I got my little boy, man. He the 4-year-old, the last one, man. But this guy will beat my ass, for any little things. And my daughters never did that. So big difference between daughters and
boys are
and
different.
sons.
Boys are different. I will
My
say
brother
that,
tells me, man, when something happened, I forget what happened, and he'll be like, "Boy, now you got a boy. Congratulations!" And this was like last year. He did something crazy that my daughter's never done, and he's like, "Yeah, congratulations, you had a boy." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yep. Yeah. No, the only thing about girls is the fact that they are daddy's girls.
Oh, you know it, man. They got us wrapped around that finger.
Exactly.
Like we don't want to admit it, but we all know it's
exactly
true. But what I like on that part is, yes, spoil them so the next one knows how to take care of it.
Yeah. I make it difficult. I'm like, if your boyfriend can't do what daddy can do, then
he's not the one.
Exactly.
No, man, you gotta take care of them because hey. Those are your little princesses, no matter how big they get. I tell them all the time, man. To us, you are still going to be our little princesses.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again. It was a wonderful live. Tim, thank you for being on here with me. Gregory.
I'll be in the comments later weeks.
Yes, sir. We will catch you live on Friday, sir, on your show, 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern time. The link is right here, guys. So, I'm sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. Link is where? There you go. Up top this way. So, guys, catch the Self Employed Tax Guy on his YouTube channel. Subscribe, definitely look at what benefits you can get from him as savings, because anywhere you can save taxes, everybody pays taxes and you should be paying taxes. Do not try to avoid taxes because the IRS will still get you. I will end this with this, that I'm a big comic guy. There's an episode on DC with the Batman and the Joker, who's supposed to be the craziest guy, and they biggest villain that DC has or Batman has is that he's going nuts because he's getting an IRS audit, and his goons are saying, "Hey, boss, why are you going crazy over the IRS? You fight the Batman all the time." He's like, "I'm crazy enough to mess with the Bat, but I'm not crazy enough to mess with the IRS." So if the Joker realized that, we all need to realize that. So
Man, you got to tell me what
I gotta find that. I gotta find that. I gotta find that, and I gotta get that over to you. I love the. I'm a whole comic guy, man. Like, I'm not too much into the anime, but the old classic stuff, Superman, Batman, all that stuff, man.
Gotcha.
Grew up on that. I still watch that stuff. I'm still a big kid at heart.
Same here.
Gotta be.
All right, guys. Have a great night, y'all.
All right,
See you
man.
guys.
Everybody
Thanks
have
for
a good
watching.
evening. God bless you.
Same here.